Welcome to the Real Point English Stories channel. Today, I want to share a very personal story with you. This is the story of my journey from speaking broken English to becoming fluent. It's a journey full of challenges, learning, and, most importantly, growth. My story begins in a small town in the USA. I remember the first day I walked into my new school. I was nervous and scared. I had just moved to the United States from another country. I knew a little bit of English, but not enough to communicate easily. My English was broken, like a puzzle with missing pieces. I could say simple things like hello and thank you. But when it came to having a conversation, I felt lost. On that first day, I walked into the classroom, and everyone was chatting with each other. They were laughing and sharing stories. I stood at the door, feeling out of place. The teacher, Mrs. Thompson, smiled at me and said, "Welcome. Please come in and sit down." I took a deep breath and walked to an empty desk in the back of the room. Mrs. Thompson started the class, and I tried to follow along. She spoke quickly, and the other students seemed to understand everything. I felt like I was in a different world. I could hear the words, but they sounded like a jumble to me. My heart sank as I realized how far behind I was. During lunch, I sat with a group of kids who were talking about their favorite movies. I wanted to join in, but I was too shy. I didn't know how to express my thoughts. I heard them laughing and having fun, but all I could do was smile and nod. It was a lonely feeling, and I wished I could speak like them. After school, I went home feeling defeated. I looked at myself in the mirror and said, "You can do this." I knew I had to improve my English if I wanted to fit in and make friends. That evening, I made a plan. I would practice every day, no matter how hard it was. I started by watching English cartoons. The characters spoke slowly, and I could understand some of the words. I repeated what they said, trying to imitate their pronunciation. At first it felt silly, but I didn't care. I was determined to learn. I also found a notebook and began writing down new words. I would look them up in a dictionary and try to use them in sentences. The next day at school, I felt a little more confident. I tried to speak to one of my classmates, Sarah. She was kind and smiled at me. I said, "Hi, I like your backpack." To my surprise, she replied, "Thank you. Where did you get yours?" I felt a spark of excitement. I could communicate even if it was just a small conversation. As the weeks went by, I continued to practice. I would read simple books aloud to myself, and my family noticed my efforts. They encouraged me and told me how proud they were of me. I also started joining after-school clubs. I found one that focused on art, and there I met a few students who shared my love for drawing. Being part of the art club was a turning point for me. We would spend hours working on projects, and I began to form friendships. During our breaks, we would chat about our drawings and share ideas. I felt more comfortable speaking English, and my vocabulary started to grow. One day, while working on a painting, my friend Jake said, "You've improved a lot. Your English is getting better." His words filled me with pride. I realized that my hard work was paying off. I began to speak more confidently, and my sentences were becoming clearer. I also discovered the power of listening. I started listening to music in English. I loved the rhythms and melodies, and I would read the lyrics while listening. This helped me understand the language better and improved my pronunciation. Songs became a fun way to learn. One evening, while studying, I decided to watch an English movie with subtitles. I chose a popular film, and as I watched, I found myself laughing at the jokes and understanding the plot. It felt amazing. I paused the movie and thought to myself, "Wow, I am really learning." My journey from speaking broken English to becoming fluent was not easy, but each step brought me closer to my goal. I learned to embrace my mistakes as part of the process. Whenever I stumbled over words, I reminded myself that learning is a journey, not a race. Chapter 2: Facing Challenges and Finding Solutions. Welcome back to the Real Point English Stories channel. In this chapter, I want to share the challenges I faced on my journey to becoming fluent in English and how I overcame them. Learning a new language is never easy, but it is filled with moments that test your patience and determination. As I continued my studies and practiced my English, I quickly realized that there were many obstacles ahead of me. One of the biggest challenges was my fear of speaking in front of others. Although I was improving, the thought of making mistakes in front of my classmates made me anxious. I often avoided participating in class discussions because I didn't want to sound foolish. One day, Mrs. Thompson announced that we would have a speaking competition in front of the whole school. My heart raced at the thought. I felt a wave of panic wash over me. What if I forget my words? What if everyone laughs? These thoughts made me want to hide. I considered not participating, but then I remembered how far I had come. I had worked hard to learn English, and I didn't want to let fear stop me. That night, I practiced my speech in front of the mirror. I wrote down my main points and rehearsed them over and over. I focused on my breathing to calm my nerves. Finally, the day of the competition arrived. As I stood backstage, waiting for my turn, I felt my heart pounding. But when my name was called, I took a deep breath and walked onto the stage. As I began to speak, I saw friendly faces in the audience. I looked for my friends and they smiled at me, giving me the encouragement I needed. I stumbled over a few words, but instead of freezing in fear, I took a moment to breathe and continue. By the time I finished, I felt a rush of pride. I had faced my fear and done my best. The applause from the audience felt like a warm hug. I learned that everyone makes mistakes, and that is part of learning. Another challenge I faced was understanding fast-paced conversations. In class, I would often feel lost during discussions when my classmates spoke quickly. I struggled to keep up, and I would miss important points. To tackle this, I decided to listen to podcasts and audiobooks in English. I started with beginner-level materials, where the speakers talked slowly and clearly. Gradually, I moved on to more advanced content. I also practiced listening to native speakers by watching YouTube videos. I would pause the video and repeat what I heard, focusing on the pronunciation and intonation. This exercise helped me improve my listening skills and made it easier for me to understand my classmates when they spoke quickly. As I grew more confident in my speaking and listening abilities, I faced another hurdle: vocabulary. I often found myself searching for words during conversations. To overcome this, I started keeping a vocabulary journal. Every time I learned a new word, I wrote it down along with its meaning and an example sentence. I would review these words regularly and challenge myself to use them in conversations. One day, during lunch, I sat with a group of friends who were discussing a popular TV show. I remembered a word from my vocabulary journal, intriguing, and I decided to use it. I said, "I find that show intriguing." My friends looked at me, surprised and pleased. They said, "Wow, that's a great word." This moment made me realize that using new vocabulary is an essential part of building confidence in speaking. Along my journey, I also encountered cultural differences. I sometimes struggled to understand jokes or idioms that my classmates used. They would laugh, and I would sit there confused. To help myself adapt, I began asking questions whenever I didn't understand something. My friends were happy to explain the meaning behind their jokes or expressions. I also started paying attention to cultural references in movies and books. This helped me not only learn the language, but also understand the culture better. As I continued to push through these challenges, I learned the importance of community and support. I formed study groups with my classmates and we would practice together. We helped each other with difficult topics, and I found comfort in knowing that I was not alone in my struggles. Our shared experiences made us closer, and I felt like I belonged. In this chapter, I have shared the obstacles I faced on my journey to fluency in English and how I worked hard to overcome them. Remember, every challenge is an opportunity for growth. Embrace your mistakes, ask questions, and lean on your support system. It's all part of the journey. In the next chapter, I will share some practical tips that helped me improve my English and become more confident in my speaking abilities. Thank you for joining me again on the Real Point English Stories channel. Stay tuned for more of my journey from broken English to fluency. Chapter 3: Practical Tips for Improvement. Welcome back to the Real Point English Stories channel. In this chapter, I'm excited to share practical tips that helped me improve my English skills and build my confidence. Everyone learns differently, but I hope some of these strategies will inspire you on your own journey to fluency. 1. Immerse yourself in the language. One of the most effective ways to learn a new language is to immerse yourself in it. I started by surrounding myself with English as much as possible. I changed the language settings on my phone and computer to English. I also began listening to English music and watching movies and TV shows without subtitles. At first, it was challenging, but over time, I became more familiar with the sounds and rhythms of the language. I even started to pick up on common phrases and expressions used in everyday conversations. 2. Read aloud. Reading aloud was another powerful tool for me. I would pick up English books, articles, or even children's stories and read them out loud. This practice helped improve my pronunciation and fluency. It also gave me a chance to work on my intonation, which is essential for sounding natural in conversations. I would record myself reading and listen back to identify areas for improvement. 3. Join a language exchange program. I found great success in joining a language exchange program, where I could practice speaking English with native speakers who wanted to learn my language. This arrangement allowed me to have real conversations in a relaxed setting. I would help them with their language skills while they corrected me and offered tips on how to speak more naturally. It was a win-win situation, and I made some wonderful friends along the way. 4. Set specific goals. To keep myself motivated, I set specific language learning goals. Instead of saying, I want to improve my English, I would set measurable objectives, such as learning 10 new vocabulary words each week or practicing speaking for 30 minutes a day. By having clear goals, I could track my progress and celebrate my achievements, no matter how small. 5. Use language learning apps. I discovered several language learning apps that made studying fun and engaging. Apps like Duolingo, Babbel, and Memrise allowed me to practice vocabulary, grammar, and pronunciation through interactive exercises and games. I liked the daily reminders and challenges that encouraged me to stay consistent. These apps helped me integrate learning into my daily routine, even when I was busy. 6. Keep a journal. Writing in English was a vital part of my language learning journey. I started keeping a journal where I would write about my day, my thoughts, and my feelings. At first, my entries were short and simple, but as my vocabulary improved, I began to write more detailed descriptions. This practice not only helped me solidify my understanding of grammar and sentence structure, but also gave me a safe space to express myself without the fear of making mistakes. Over time, I noticed my writing becoming more fluid and confident. 7th, practice conversations. To become comfortable speaking, I practiced conversations with friends and family who were willing to help. We would sit down and have casual chats in English about various topics. I found that role-playing different scenarios, such as ordering food at a restaurant or discussing my hobbies, was particularly helpful. This method prepared me for real-life situations and helped reduce my anxiety about speaking. 8. Learn from mistakes. Mistakes are a natural part of the learning process, and I learned to embrace them. Instead of feeling embarrassed when I made errors, I would reflect on them and use them as opportunities for growth. My teachers and friends would often point out my mistakes, and I took their feedback seriously. I started to see corrections as valuable lessons rather than personal failures. 9. Watch and repeat. One of my favorite activities was watching English shows or movies and repeating the lines after the actors. This technique, known as shadowing, helped me improve my pronunciation and speaking rhythm. I would pause the video, listen carefully, and then try to imitate the way the characters spoke. It was both fun and educational, and it made me feel more connected to the language. 10. Be patient and persistent. Finally, one of the most important lessons I learned was to be patient and persistent. Language learning is a marathon, not a sprint. There were times when I felt frustrated and doubted my progress, but I reminded myself of how far I had come. I celebrated small victories, like having a successful conversation or understanding a difficult text. With each step, I became more confident and motivated to continue my journey. In this chapter, I shared the practical tips that helped me improve my English skills. Every learner is unique, so I encourage you to find what works best for you. Remember, consistency and practice are key. As you continue on your journey from broken English to fluency, don't hesitate to try new methods and adapt them to fit your needs. Chapter 4. Inspiring Stories from Other Learners. Welcome back to the Real Point English Stories channel. In this chapter, I want to share some inspiring stories from other English learners who, like me, faced challenges but ultimately achieved fluency. Their experiences demonstrate that with determination and the right approach, anyone can learn a new language. 1. Maria from Mexico. Maria moved to the United States for work when she was 28. At first, she felt lost in her new environment because she couldn't communicate effectively. Maria decided to join an English class at a local community center. She was motivated to learn because she wanted to connect with her colleagues and make friends. In her class, Maria met a diverse group of learners, and they often practiced together outside of school. She found that making friends with native speakers helped her improve her language skills faster. They would go out for coffee or attend events where English was the main language spoken. Over time, Maria's confidence grew, and she started giving presentations at work in English. Today, she is not only fluent, but also mentors other immigrants who want to learn the language. 2. Ahmed from Egypt. Ahmed had always dreamed of studying in an English-speaking country. When he was accepted into a university in the United States, he knew he needed to improve his English quickly. He started by taking intensive English courses at a language school. Ahmed also joined a local soccer team where he met other students and native speakers. Playing soccer became a way for him to practice his English in a fun and relaxed environment. He would listen to his teammates and try to join in on their conversations. With each practice, he became more comfortable speaking, and soon he was able to make friends and enjoy his university experience fully. Today, Ahmed is pursuing his master's degree and speaks English fluently. Third, Layla from Brazil. Layla always had a passion for learning languages. When she decided to learn English, she used her love for music as a tool. She started listening to English songs and analyzing the lyrics. This approach not only improved her vocabulary, but also helped her understand cultural references and idioms commonly used in English. Layla would sing along to her favorite songs, which boosted her confidence in speaking. She also found language exchange partners online with whom she practiced regularly. Eventually, she was able to participate in conversations about various topics, from music to travel. Today, Layla is a language coach herself, helping others learn English using creative methods. Fourth, Tom from Japan. Tom's story is quite unique. He was a shy student who struggled with speaking in English classes. He found it hard to participate and often felt embarrassed when making mistakes. However, one day, he stumbled upon a podcast dedicated to English learners. Inspired, he started listening to it every day. Tom then decided to record himself speaking about different topics, like his hobbies and daily life. He listened to his recordings to identify areas for improvement. Gradually, he became more comfortable speaking English aloud. Now, Tom has a YouTube channel where he shares his language learning journey and encourages others to practice speaking without fear. 5. Aisha from Nigeria. Aisha grew up speaking English in Nigeria, but she wanted to refine her skills and speak like a native. She began by reading English novels and taking notes on expressions she liked. Aisha also joined a local book club where they discussed books in English. This experience not only enhanced her vocabulary, but also helped her understand different perspectives. To further develop her speaking skills, Aisha volunteered to teach English to younger students in her community. This opportunity allowed her to practice speaking in front of a group, and she learned to explain complex ideas simply. Aisha now works as an English teacher, inspiring her students to pursue their dreams through language learning. Reflection on their journeys. These stories demonstrate that everyone's path to fluency is different, but the common thread is persistence and creativity. Whether it's finding a supportive community, using music, or engaging in conversations, Each of these learners found ways to make English a part of their daily lives. As you continue your own journey from broken English to fluency, remember that challenges are opportunities for growth. Surround yourself with supportive people, practice regularly, and don't be afraid to make mistakes. Your experiences, like those of Maria, Ahmed, Layla, Tom, and Aisha, will shape your unique journey to mastering English. Chapter 5: Embracing Culture Through Language Learning. Welcome back to the Real Point English Stories channel. In this chapter, I want to discuss how embracing different cultures can enhance your language learning experience. Language and culture are deeply intertwined, and understanding cultural nuances can significantly improve your fluency and confidence. 1. The importance of cultural context. Language is more than just words. It carries the history, values, and traditions of its speakers. When learning English, understanding cultural context can help you grasp idioms, slang, and expressions that might otherwise confuse you. For instance, phrases like kick the bucket or hit the hay make much more sense when you understand the cultural references behind them. As I learned more about American culture, I found myself appreciating the stories behind common sayings and the context in which they are used. This knowledge made me feel more connected to the language and the people who spoke it. 2. Exploring food and traditions. One of the most enjoyable ways to immerse yourself in a culture is through its food. I remember trying various American dishes like hamburgers, apple pie, and barbecue during my language journey. Not only did I learn new vocabulary related to cooking and dining, but I also discovered the stories and traditions behind these foods. Participating in cultural festivals or events in my community also opened my eyes to different customs and practices. I attended Thanksgiving celebrations, 4th of July fireworks, and even cultural fairs that showcased various cuisines and traditions from around the world. Each experience taught me new phrases and expressions that enhanced my conversational skills. 3. Engaging with art and music. Art and music are powerful tools for language learners. I explored American literature, from classic novels to contemporary poetry, which helped me appreciate the language's richness. Reading works by authors like Mark Twain and Maya Angelou not only improved my vocabulary, but also provided insights into American society and values. Listening to different music genres such as jazz, hip-hop, and country helped me understand the emotional nuances of the language. I would read the lyrics while listening, which enhanced my pronunciation and rhythm. I even began to write my own song lyrics in English, blending my love for music with my language learning journey. 4. Building connections through language. One of the most rewarding aspects of learning English was the opportunity to connect with people from diverse backgrounds. I made friends with individuals from various cultures, and these friendships enriched my understanding of the world. We shared stories, celebrated our differences, and learned from each other. Through language exchange programs, I practiced speaking English while helping others learn my native language. These interactions deepened my appreciation for cultural diversity and taught me valuable communication skills that extended beyond just language. 5. Traveling and exploring. Traveling to different parts of the United States also played a significant role in my language learning journey. Each city I visited had its own unique culture and dialect. I remember feeling excited yet nervous as I navigated new environments and communicated with locals. During a trip to New Orleans, I was fascinated by the blend of cultures in the city. The vibrant music scene, delicious cuisine, and rich history made my visit unforgettable. I practiced my English by engaging in conversations with street performers and shop owners, which boosted my confidence and allowed me to apply what I had learned in real-life situations. Conclusion: a journey of growth. As I reflect on my journey from broken English to fluency, I realize that embracing culture has been a crucial part of my learning experience. Understanding the context in which a language is spoken allows for deeper connections and more meaningful interactions. Each cultural encounter has shaped my identity as an English speaker and enriched my understanding of the language itself. I encourage you to explore the cultures associated with the language you are learning. Whether it's through food, art, music, or travel, immersing yourself in different cultures will enhance your language skills and provide you with unforgettable experiences. Thank you for joining me on this incredible journey on the Real Point English Stories channel. I hope my story and the stories of others have inspired you to continue pursuing your language learning goals. Remember, every step you take brings you closer to fluency and opens up a world of opportunities. Stay tuned for more engaging content and keep believing in yourself.